Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast. I'm Daniel Torres, here live from Retail Media Summit UK by SMG and Path to Purchase Institute, and accompanied by a familiar face of the podcast who I interviewed a year ago exactly, and the main character of Media on the Move, which we have every Thursday on the LinkedIn page. Hi, Dean Harris, head of Co-op Media Group.
Hi Daniel, again, we've been speaking every week for 10 weeks on Media on the Move, but good for more than 60 seconds of time.
Good to see you again, and maybe actually it would be good to speak a bit about Media on the Move. Maybe you can describe it, like what we're doing every Thursday.
There's a lot of in-depth discussions and panels and 45-minute podcasts and things like that, and Daniel and I came up with this idea of just doing really forcefully short answers to quite big retail media questions, harder than you think. And the other area that Daniel added was we'll do it walking around. So I'm walking around Manchester or walking my dog and trying to come up with these answers to these thought-provoking questions. But it's good, check it out.
Yeah, every Thursday around midday we released a video on the LinkedIn page, and I think we're getting some good feedback, so I think it's worth continuing it. So I encourage people that are listening to us to tune in. So we spoke a year ago. How's the last year been for you?
It doesn't feel like a year, does it?
Does it feel like 10 or like less?
No, a lot less, like a blink of an eye. It's been busy, but it's been a great year as well for Co-op, for the industry. Wow. You've broken 17,000 followers now, big year for you as well.
Yeah, indeed. For us it's been a great year. I hope that more people recognize me in the show floor than last year. But nobody's asked me for an autograph yet.
It'll come.
But I hope it comes. So we met a year ago, so that's 12 months ago. And then 8 months ago, you actually launched Co-op's media network.
Yeah.
How was it and how has it been?
It was good because we took a chance, because anything in the B2B world, it's not like you can test it like you can with a consumer launch.
Yeah.
We can't have focus groups in hotel function rooms asking Nestle, Diageo and Unilever to put post-it notes on Co-op Media Network logos or send surveys out to give you reassurance that your strategy's right, your proposition's right. So we took a bit of a chance by saying we're going to just focus on convenience and we're just going to make sure that that's our point of difference. Because the risk was, yes, you're different, but are you compelling in different? And different could be perceived as niche, or it could be different, like a unicycle's different to a car, and everyone would rather drive to work. Well, most people would choose the car over the unicycle. And launch went really well. The reception from brands, it seemed to come across clear in terms of where that difference was, where we sat versus supermarket media, which was complementary, not a substitute, and the value that convenience can unlock because of the footfall, the fact that stores are embedded in local communities, and the compact nature of the stores. So all the things that we wanted to landed really well with brands, and it's been Co-op's best ever retail media year.
Wow, amazing. So for anyone that is unfamiliar with the Co-op, which I think most of our audience will be, can you tell us a bit like the elevator pitch of what Co-op is? Because you have a very interesting profile in the UK market. Yeah,
so Co-op, as the name suggests, is a cooperative business. So we're not on the stock market, we're not on the FTSE 500, we're a member-owned organisation. So that's the first big difference in the UK. Second, we're actually a portfolio of businesses. So we've got grocery, funeral care, insurance, life services, and online grocery as well, rapid delivery. And we're currently the market leader in convenience retail. So we're the experts in smaller shops, those convenience missions, so that sort of food to go, food for now, impulse, treat for the weekend, top-up missions is where we win and where we're the destination. So we're not the push a trolley round 27 aisles type of shop with a pop in for 5 items with a basket or juggling them on your way out the store sort of shop.
And isn't there like a number of everybody's very close to Co-op store, or there's like a number? Or?
We've got a store in every postal code area across the United Kingdom, so England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland. 70% of the UK population live within 2 miles of a Co-op. So the geographical reach of our stores is unlike any.
I love these statistics. I mean, the thing of the postal code is actually pretty crazy. As like convenience leader, how does that shape your media network?
What we found pre-launch was that the main way brands used to decide how their retail media investment was made was usually based on how much they sold with each retailer. So if a brand sold 5% with Co-op, 20% with Tesco, they'd allocate 5% of their media budget to Co-op. But what we found in convenience, when you actually convert all the metrics about us as a retailer into media attributes, we actually punch way above our weight. So if you think the main currency of media is reach, frequency, and attention. And our market share is 7th because people are spending less each time they come in. But in terms of reach, we've got that geographical reach, that 70% of the UK population within 2 miles. Footfall, convenience is a high footfall, so you get frequency. And then when you're in the shop, there's less aisles. If you're shopping for bread, you'll also walk past a coffee advert or a tea advert or a biscuit advert. So the ad visibility and attention is much higher. So what we've been trying to do is reframe how brands perceive the value of convenience through a media lens. And that's been the game changer, but we've had to invest in proving its power as well.
So is that like how you're bringing it to life, like creating really like on-site, like on the website, but also in the store experience?
Yeah, convenience does skew to store. So our share of online is different to the supermarket. So I think about 7-8% maybe of our sales come through our quick commerce business, which is, you know, bicycles and mopeds. So it's not the big van pulling outside your house, offloading baskets like it is for Tesco or Sainsbury's. It's the 5 items of the case of beer at 9 o'clock on a Friday night sort of delivery service. So a lot of the retail media investment does come through the store, but the e-commerce business is growing rapidly because more and more people are using that sort of, I want it in the next hour service.
And I guess this is also like a bit of a case for top of the funnel type of investment for brands, no?
That's one of the big challenges, and we've heard it today, is that retail media, especially the store or even on-site, is viewed as conversion media, focusing on that trip or that online search for products, and once that trip's finished, that media has no value. One of the things we're trying to do at Co-op is prove that actually, if you see an advert in a shop, you might not convert there, you might actually convert in a later shop, or you might actually even convert in another grocer as a consequence of seeing that ad. And that then proves that retail media and in-store media has a more brand building upper funnel impact. And channels can do both things. It's often dependent on the creative or the objective of the metrics that you focus on.
Yeah, I think it's a case of creating either your standards and really demonstrating that is that return on ad spend,
yeah,
no? Or IROAS as they're calling it now.
Incremental.
Incremental. What about, so you mentioned online, in-store, what about offsite? Like how are you seeing that?
Offsite tends to mean mostly like digital media, you know, the Facebooks, the YouTubes, the Instagram adverts, and utilising our data. And this year was the first year we explored that, and we're actually in a trial state for that. We're hoping to relaunch our proposition next year to the market, taking our learnings. And the big learning in that offsite media point was that we need to make sure our offer is convenience focused. So think about audience packages rather than just bespoke, customized segmentation of audiences. So brands that want to target food to go shoppers will package that up. Brands that want to target meal for tonight shoppers will package that up. Brands that skew towards buying treats and BWS around sporting events. This is data that we have, and it's convenience unique data.
Yeah.
We need to know our place when a brand's considering, do I use a supermarket's data to drive my offsite activity? And when do I use Co-op's data to drive it? And we need to have our difference there. I think we've got our difference across our stores. From a data perspective, that's something that we'll be exploring in the future.
And by the way, what about the screens you're deploying in the stores?
Yeah, hot off the press.
You hot off the press, you just announced it when? Yesterday? Or the day
Yeah,
before?
yesterday. We put our first store in, a trial store, so you wanted to test the end-to-end process of installation. Now this week is when we're installing them at pace every single evening. And the first store we chose was actually on the Manchester half marathon route. So when we sent the photographer to take the pictures of the screens, there's thousands and thousands of runners going past the Co-op shop. And that was just a perfect example of showing how our stores are in population dense places, busy, integrated places in the community. So brands don't just get the visibility of people going into the shop, they get the visibility of all the people walking to work, watching half marathon, running a half marathon. So that sort of added exposure that brands get. The only challenge is it's hard to quantify. It's hard to say how many people looked at the screen but didn't come into the shop. We'll find ways to get there, but that's another benefit of convenience in it. We couldn't say we were convenience focused without having that agility of digital media in our shop. Cardboard and plastic are still really effective ways to appeal to shoppers in that environment, but the lead times are longer, they're less reactive, It's not like you can ask a store manager to say, can you change this in the morning? Can you change this at lunch? If it's sunny, can you put this up? You need a digital screen to help you do that. So it's a massive boost for capability, amazing opportunity for brands. And we've actually started from going, what's our highest footfall store, and working our way down the list. So we're already a high footfall channel anyway, market leaders in convenience, but these are the super high footfall stores.
And what about, I know that you published a report with Circana recently called the Halo Report.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can remind us what that was about, and also interested to know if you'll be doing more these type of reports, especially if you're getting these type of learnings.
What triggered it was, in the UK, I know in America you've got 7-Eleven, I think Circle K, Casey's, but in the UK there's not anyone that's championed convenience and investing in ways to prove that it's different, because the supermarket's mainly focused on their big store environment or their website. So we knew we'd have to do our own research, and we worked with Circana to test a hypothesis we had, which was if you advertise in a Co-op shop, it not only drives brand sales in that store, but it will drive brand sales in all the rival nearby stores, because Co-op shares its shoppers with supermarkets and other grocers. We used a few case studies. One was a beer brand, and the sales in our shop when the advertising was in there versus the sales where the advertising wasn't in our shops was 12%. But you expect that. If you advertise the thing, more people are going to buy the thing.
Yeah.
But the game changer was we also noticed a 3% uplift for that brand in all the rival stores around the Co-op store. So that basically meant people coming into Co-op, seeing the advertising, not buying it in that trip, going home, watching Netflix, waking up, going into a Tesco or an Asda or a Morrison's, and then buying that beer brand. But the reason they bought it was because of the Co-op advertising. So not great news for the trading director, because you're growing sales in a rival grocer. Great news as a media owner.
But it's not like you're losing sales anyway. And it's an interesting one, because it also places you guys in a complementary set.
Exactly.
And not in like a competition set, which is not a bad place to be if you know how to really work your niche. And as you said, like really like believe that you're the convenience player and be like the category leader there.
Yeah, a key part of our proposition was three things. We wanted to be different and prove that difference. We wanted to be complementary, so we weren't saying it's Co-op or Tesco or Co-op or Nectar. It's Co-op and Tesco, Co-op and Nectar, because you should cover both missions and both formats and both ways that your product can be purchased. And it was amazing, because when you added up all those 3%, it actually quadrupled the incremental sales value of the campaign, because there's a lot of those stores. And that was previously hidden from a brand. They didn't know they were getting that benefit. That's why we've took it to conferences.
And it's a great case for you guys, obviously, but I think for the industry in terms of like the upper funnel value of retail media.
And it puts a big part of retail media in the discussion is this closed loop measurement. And it puts a bit of that into, not challenge, but you could be reducing the amount of performance that your campaign has if you only measure the sales you create in your own shop, because everyone else isn't counting the sales around their store either. It's going to be higher in convenience because we share all our shoppers. But you mentioned other thought leadership.
What's coming up?
We're not stopping, so we know we need to keep fueling this fire and keep proving it. So we've got an interesting one that's going to be shortly released around attention. So we wanted to see if ads in a compact convenience store get more visibility, get more attention, and get more brand recall versus ads in a large supermarket. Because you can imagine, if convenience is already high footfall, but there's less aisles, each person that walks into a convenience store is probably more likely to see the ad, more likely to walk past it more times. And we wanted to see if that then generates improved brand recall.
And it's interesting, it will be interesting to see as well, like, what kind of mindset does the consumer go into? Like, are they more in an exploratory mode? When they go into convenience? One could think no, because it's convenience, it's impulse, it's rush. But maybe when they go into convenience, they're more open to see other options. Whereas when they go to the supermarket, where they're buying everything with a list already.
Yeah, definitely. Last year at the Retail Media Summit, someone from Tesco, I think it was Lee Roberts, mentioned 80% of the people who shop on Tesco.com don't search directly for a brand. And his point was that you then have an opportunity to introduce your brand. So if someone's searching bread, you can put Warburton's in front of them, right? They're not searching for Warburton's, they're searching for bread. And the convenience shopper mindset is very problem orientated or mission orientated. I need something for tonight, I need something for lunch, I need a snack, and they haven't got a brand in mind. So the opportunity for a brand to help that shopper make a quick decision and make their life easier is even greater inconvenience. And we think consumers already in the market have low money budgets, right? And they've already got low frustration budgets. Shopping in groceries probably considered a chore more than a pleasure. And the added thing in convenience is they actually have a low time budget as well. So our hypothesis is you're actually more receptive to advertising in a convenience store because you get into the fixture, say it's you want a soft drink and you're like, help me make my mind up. Whereas in a supermarket, it's written on a list. It's written on your list. In a convenience, no one comes into a convenience shop with a list.
No. That's true. Supermarkets are open on Sunday here as well, right?
Yeah, reduced hours though. Below a certain square foot, you can stay open longer.
Got it.
So I think supermarkets can open for 4 or 5 hours on a Sunday, whereas convenience stores can open 7 to 11.
So a lot, as you know, like actually most of our audience, I would like to say 65% or so are coming from the brand, FMCG brand side. From your point of view, being the other side of the table, if you were an FMCG brand, how would you approach retail media and specifically convenience retail media?
I think there's probably 3 things I'd give tips or guidance to brands on. One would be retail media's accelerated so quickly that no one's organisational structure has been able to move as quick. So brands have actually ended up with quite a lot of siloed teams that might touch retail media. They might have their shopper team, their national account manager, their e-commerce, performance marketing, brand team. They've got their media agencies. And there wasn't a lot of risk of those not being as connected with the retailer. Now they need to be. So what we're seeing is silos are creating quite a bit of challenge where you get duplicate briefs, but they're not joined up. So the silos is one thing. I'm aware of some brands are actually readdressing how they're structured around retail media because it's seen as so important to them. The second bit is probably test everything, test and learn. Like the amount of resource and commitment to test retail media properly is high. It's part of the reason it's growing so much. But brands are still uncertain of how the cocktail across everything else works. So they've got to make sure they test thoroughly to make sure they're getting the cocktail right across the non-retail media investment, the retail media investment, and then which one. And then in convenience, I'd say, like, and we're not shy about this, I'd say when there's a convenience solution to a media or a marketing challenge, that's where we come in. We have a specific role to play, and certain brands can get a lot out of the convenience channel in terms of the different missions and the different audiences. And lastly, on that point of convenience is look at the media value, not just the sales value. So as I said, the baskets are smaller, but the actual visibility, the reach, the frequency there in terms of media and advertising currency is really high. So reframe your decisions around media rather than grocery sales.
And is there anything like that you as the head of the media network, you think brands should be doing more of to like make the most of it? Like, they're making an investment with you guys.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you say like they're not tapping into this enough? Because we know how it is with marketing. Sometimes you put so much work into like getting the campaign out that then you forget about like actually maximizing the investment.
The one thing tends to be the topic of conversation that I have with brands is using the store environment for that upper funnel. So even though the till is in the shop, the temptation therefore is saying, well, this media is close to the till, I'm going to judge it on how much it makes that till ring. Whereas we shouldn't classify a channel just by how close it is to the till. Because your couch and where you watch TV is far from the till, it's brand building, and the closer you get to the till, it should be more sales activation. You should judge a channel based on its interaction with the consumer. So do a lot of people see it? Do a lot of different people see it? Do they see it multiple times? Do they see it repetitively? And do they look at the advertising? Do they give it attention? Yeah. Those should be the metrics that brand make the assessment of what can it do against my objective.
Especially having that report where
the halo,
it proves that it has the halo effect, right? So we're here at the Retail Media Summit for the second time. From what you've heard people say, any learning or any like trend that people are speaking about? Like I remember last year was a lot about in-store and standardization. I think these were the key concepts. What about this year?
I've quite liked the diversity of different topics and speakers, to be honest. It's quite good to hear from different verticals, Very Group and Jess talking about the different categories that they supply in and that they're a pure play retail media network.
And also in department store type of categories.
An online department store essentially. And there's a lot of similarity in the themes, you know, the measurement, the standardization, the targeting, the data capability. What I liked though about Jess is she always tried to summarize it back to a few core principles, because what you can have in retail media is you're not shy of vendors you can talk to, media touch points you can invest in. There's non-endemic brands, endemic brands, media agencies, demand side platforms, supply, you know, ad tech providers. It's endless. And what her philosophy is to just be really disciplined on the core focus. Just to have your core principles to help you make your decisions, because otherwise you'd just be paralyzed by choice.
And all these things have to be a means to an end.
Yeah.
And you need to have a clear hint that you're clear about. If not, you're just like...
No business is shy of good or great ideas. The list of good or great ideas is long. You just need a way to say, well, which ones am I going to ignore and which ones am I going to focus on? Because if you spread yourself too thinly, you might have 100 things that you only move forward an inch a year, rather than 3 things you'll move a mile.
Totally. It's like focus on the things you're good at instead of trying to improve everything.
Yeah.
So last year when we spoke, I didn't ask you a famous question, so I'll ask you now, which is like, with everything that you've learned during your career, if you went back to yourself when you were starting to work, what would be that one piece of advice, only one, that you would give yourself?
Great today is better than perfect tomorrow. So that sense of momentum and progress. And I think I used to slow things down by waiting for things to be perfect or well polished enough, when really you realize that just moving forward, and if you make a mistake, you can reassess, but momentum and progress is the most important thing to success.
Fantastic.